Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalia Leigh. I'm an indie author and full-time freelance editor, and today I am giving you 7 more tips for writing a fantastic first chapter. And I say 7 more because I do already have a video up on my channel with 7 tips for writing chapter 1. Granted, that was filmed like 4 years ago, and the content is definitely still relevant. The tips are still relevant, but the video production quality is not nearly as good as it is now. So do keep that in mind, but I will be linking that video down below. So if you want 14 tips in total, then when you're done watching these 7 tips, you can head on over to that second video linked down below and see 7 more tips. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the video. Okay, tip number 1 is to give readers a bit of setting description. Now, you don't need to go overboard with this. You don't need to give us multiple pages of description of what the setting looks like, but it's really helpful for readers, you know, a reader who has just opened your book and they're starting this adventure with your main character. It's nice for them to have a bit of description so that they can start crafting this world in their mind and in their imagination. So if you fail to give readers any sort of setting description, then the characters they're picturing are just going to be kind of floating through a void or a white space. You might even struggle with white room syndrome, which I do have a video on. I will link it down below. So even just sprinkling in a few little setting details can really help your reader to clearly picture the setting where the scene is unfolding and where the book begins. Tip number 2 is kind of like a simple one, and that is just don't meander. And by meander, I mean, I've seen those books, and I think most of us probably have even written those books, where the character wakes up in the morning and they stretch and they get out of bed and then they get dressed and then they brush their teeth and they make their way down the stairs. So they're meandering through their day, or they're meandering through this opening scene. And instead of doing that, I encourage you to jump right in. Jump right into the action, right into dialogue if you need to, right into a fight scene, like whatever it is that works for your book. Let's just get right to it, get right into the action, get right into something a bit exciting. So that way the reader is not, you know, on page 4 wondering, okay, when is this main character going to get out of the house and start the adventure that I was promised in the back cover blurb. So don't meander. That is tip number 2. Now, building off of tip number 2, tip number 3 is to know what your goal is for that first chapter or for that first scene. Now, this isn't always easy when you're starting a new book, especially if you are a pantser. So this might be something that you want to come back to after you've written your first draft or your 0 draft and you're ready to start revising and really homing in on what your goal is for, you know, not only chapter 1, but for act 1, for the entire novel, etc. You know, what your intentions are. So that way you know, okay, in this opening scene, here are the 3 things that I need to achieve. I need to introduce the main character, I need to introduce the world a little bit, and I need to foreshadow or hint at what the main conflict is going to be. And that's not like you don't have to do those 3 things, but those are just 3 examples of things that, okay, here are my goals and intentions for this first chapter. Now let's make sure that 1, I am achieving those 3 things, introducing the character, the world, and foreshadowing the conflict. And not only are you achieving those 3 things, but you're also achieving them in a way that is interesting, intriguing, and exciting for a reader. So if you need a little bit more help with outlining, because this would in a way be outlining so that you know what the goal is for every chapter in your novel, for every scene in your novel. I recently did a video on different outlining methods, and a few of those outlining methods can be used by pantsers. So even if you are a pantser, you might find it helpful. I will link it down below for your viewing pleasure. Tip number 4 is a little bit of a controversial one, but I wanted to share it nonetheless, and that is to try to avoid unnecessary prologues. Now, I say unnecessary prologues because I have read plenty of books. I even have a book, Song of the Dryad, that has a prologue at the beginning, and there's a large time jump between prologue and chapter 1. But like I said, I've read many books that have successfully use prologues. So you don't have to think to yourself, oh, I can never use a prologue, because that's not the case. But you do want to try to avoid unnecessary prologues. If it's, you know, unnecessary backstory, if it's backstory that we could learn later in the novel in a more organic way, learn it in the middle of the action or dialogue or a fight between characters, I would suggest trying to do it that way rather than just having a big chunk of information in a prologue in the beginning, you know, trying to get your readers kind of up to speed. But sometimes prologues are necessary. Sometimes they can definitely be useful for giving readers important information that they need before they get into chapter 1. So that's why it's a little bit controversial. You might talk to some people or hear some people say, you know, prologues are absolutely terrible, you should never use a prologue. And then there are other people who are pro-prologue. They are in the prologues can be positive camp. And I'd say that I'm in that camp. As long as it's a necessary prologue that's giving us necessary information in an interesting way, in a way that will still make us want to read on to chapter 1 and not just close the book because there are 20 pages of prologue and we're not even interested in the story yet, then maybe you need one. But do just keep it in mind, keep this in mind. You might not need the prologue, or you might be able to introduce the information that the prologue gives the reader somewhere else in the novel once they're already invested and already care about the story and the characters. Okay, speaking of characters, tip number, I think this is tip number 5, is to avoid introducing too many characters or too many names of places, names of events that have happened in the past, stuff like that. So when a reader is first being introduced to your story, they're on page 1 and they're just dipping their toes in, trying to get to know this world and your writing style, it's not always beneficial to hit them with 10 different character names, the names of multiple different kingdoms, the countries that those kingdoms reside in, the names of the kings and queens who rule all of those kingdoms, and the multiple wars that have been fought over the last 20 years. While all of that information might be relevant in the novel, it's not a good idea to introduce it all right up front, because it's going to be difficult for your reader to keep track of all those names, all the places, all the events, and catalog them in their mind and understand why all of those are important and relevant to the story. So try to avoid that for as long as you can. And I'd also suggest, again, any of that important information, this is just like a basic writing tip and a storytelling tip, but any of that really important information, avoid giving it to us in an info dump and a ton of backstory, and instead incorporate it into the novel in a way that feels natural. I always say organic. You know, you can always tell when a writer, for example, has two characters speaking to each other and the dialogue is very obviously trying to give you as the reader information, and you might think to yourself, these two characters already have all the information, so there's no reason for them to be talking to each other like this. You want to avoid stuff like that. That's not necessarily organic, like, you know, as I like to call it, but incorporating these details, these character names, the kingdom names, the wars, anything like that, any of this important information that the reader needs, make sure that when you introduce it and the way that you introduce it to your readers feels natural to the story. So it is at a natural point where this thing needs to be discussed. A character walks into the room and they are then introduced. They're not introduced, you know, way before we've ever seen them. Stuff like that. And of course, there's always a balance to play here. You can't take any one of these tips and just go, yep, I absolutely have to listen to that, because it might not necessarily apply to your novel. But do keep it in mind. Try to introduce as few characters as you can while still achieving all of those goals you set for yourself in the previous tip. Okay, tip number 6 is to use your own voice and be authentic to your voice. And the reason I say this is because most of us spend a lot of time on chapter 1, which is to be expected, because we want to make sure that it is a super strong chapter, that it grabs a reader's attention, it hooks them, and it makes them want to continue on with the rest of the book. And all of that is wonderful. But sometimes it can be clear to the reader that the author has spent significantly more time working on chapter 1 than they have chapters, you know, 2 through 20, or however many chapters you have. And the reason I say that is because we work and work and work on chapter 1. We revise and revise and revise. We want it to be as strong as it can possibly get, which again is good. But while doing this and while working on all of these revisions, make sure that you're staying true to yourself, to the story, and to your writing style. I think sometimes in an effort to write the best first chapter we can, sometimes we're not true to our own storytelling style, and we might, in some instances, try to adopt a storytelling style or voice of a different author. Maybe an author that we really admire, whose books we love to read. For me, that is, that might be Laini Taylor and Maggie Stiefvater. I absolutely love their books. They have very different writing styles. Of course, Laini Taylor has a very kind of long-winded, flowery, and super descriptive voice, and I don't write like that. I have a much simpler writing style, and that's something that I have just learned about myself and accepted over the years. So to use myself as an example, if I had reworked chapter 1 10 different times in an effort to make it as strong and gripping as I possibly could, I might start thinking, oh, maybe I could use more flowery language. Maybe I could use more long-winded setting descriptions like Laini Taylor does, because she's such a successful author. And I might start writing in a way that's not true or authentic to who I am as a storyteller. And then that's going to be obvious to readers when they get started with chapter 1 and it has a very, specific voice, and then they get to chapter 2 or maybe chapter 3, whenever those super, super heavy revisions have kind of slowed down, and now the writing has a different voice. It has a different writing style. If I'm still using that example of my writing and then Laini Taylor's style, those flowery, long-winded descriptions are now gone. And now there are much shorter and more, concise descriptions of settings or characters or what's happening with the action, just for example. And that is going to come across as being unbalanced to the reader, and they're going to notice that something happened between chapter 1 and chapter 5, and that voice has really shifted. So instead of trying to write maybe like an author you really admire, instead of trying to copy the voice or writing style of somebody else, stay really authentic to who you are as a writer. And of course, you can revise chapter 1 as many times as you need. Of course, you will need to revise it a few times to make sure that you are achieving what you're setting out to do. You're, able to check all those boxes for the goals for that scene and what your intentions are. But make sure you're also staying true to yourself and true to what your writing style is, so that it doesn't greatly shift from chapter 1 to chapter 5, for example. Okay, tip number 7, our last tip of the video, is to try to end chapter 1 on either a cliffhanger, and I know some people hate cliffhangers, especially like at the ends of books. Either end it on a cliffhanger or end it on something really exciting happening. If you end chapter 1 in kind of a boring spot, it's very possible that the reader could go, I read the first chapter and maybe I'm gonna close the book. Maybe I'm not that interested in it. Chapter 1 really does need to, like I discussed in the previous tip, hook a reader's attention and invite them into this world and invite them along this journey with your main character or characters. So one way to do that is by ending chapter 1 on something exciting. Make the reader turn that page. Make sure that they cannot put it down. You could picture, your reader up late in bed at night and they're reading chapter 1 and they get to the end, and even though they know that they have to get up early for school or they have to get up early for work, they just have to turn that page. They have to swipe on their e-reader and they need to find out what happens at the beginning of chapter 2. And of course, this is something that you can kind of employ throughout your book, and you'll want to have a balance of it. You don't always want to end every single chapter on like a cliffhanger. You don't want that method to kind of jump out to the reader and have them notice that you're always doing that. So you will need a bit of a balance throughout your entire novel, but for chapter 1, it might be really helpful to end on a super exciting event or a little bit of a cliffhanger, just to get that reader to start reading chapter 2, and then hopefully from there, they'll read chapter 3, 4, 5, all the way to the end of your book. Okay, my friends, those are 7 more tips for writing chapter 1. Like I said earlier in the video, I do have another video with 7 more tips. It'll be linked down below. I also have a video on chapter 1 mistakes, things that you probably don't want to do in chapter 1. I'll link that down below, and I'll also have my outlining video linked down below, and any other videos I feel are kind of in a similar vein and might be helpful to you as you are writing or revising chapter 1. This video was voted upon by you guys, by my subscribers, so thank you so much to everybody who voted in my recent poll. If you missed my little update in last week's video, I did mention that I am going to try to do a poll every Monday with a few different video ideas, things that I'm interested in filming, and then based on which one you guys vote on and which one wins the poll, that is what I will be filming and uploading for you that week, so that I can make sure I'm always putting out content that is helpful and that you are interested in. So this video was the one that won. This video was the one that won this week. If you would like to vote in my next poll, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the little bell notification so you'll get notified every time a new video goes live. And then you should, once you're subscribed to me, see the little poll pop up in your subscription feed once I get that up on Monday mornings. So thank you guys so much for being here and for watching this video. I do hope to film a 2021 wrap-up soon, along with maybe a 2022 goals video. I absolutely love goals and wrap-ups at the end of every year. Granted, this year I think I might be looking back on my goals and just realizing how much I didn't achieve that I thought I was going to achieve, but that is just life sometimes. So again, thank you guys so much for being here, for supporting my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!